Welcome to Salon Talks. I'm Dino Bidala, and today we're with Anthony Scaramucci, lawyer, writer. He's got a great new book out, investor, and of course, communications director under President Trump. And the brand new book is From Wall Street to the White House and Back, a guide to unbreakable resilience. My friend Anthony, good to see you.
Hey, it's great to be here, Dean. Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on the new book. Now, the book, for people to understand, it's really a self-help book. I mean, it's a touchstone on life that you share to help people with things.
Well, I mean, it's a self-evaluation, and I tried to put it down in a way where somebody can pick up the book. I didn't want to write a chapter book because we're in the age of low attention spans.
Sure.
And I said, all right, so I'm going to put 25 lessons. You could open up the book at any point in the book, and you could look through it. And it's a plain read. My job in this book is you're going to take a flight somewhere, you could read this. By the time you land somewhere, you'll be done with the book. And there'll be some things in there. You know, I got blasted out of the White House after 11 days. It was unceremonious. They skinned me alive. They rolled me in margarita salt. They mocked me on Saturday Night Live. They derided me on every late night comedy show. So much so that your camera guy over here is already laughing at me, okay, because he remembers all the skits. And
Bill Hader played you with the big pinky ring.
Yeah, the disaster I went through. Bill Hader said I was human cocaine, the son of, you allowed to curse on the show? I mean,
sure.
the SOB. But anyway, how do you go from an experience like that to building yourself back up and ignoring some of the noise and the chin music and, you know, staying in the game, staying resilient, you know, and not caring. You know, Martha Stewart went to jail. She got indicted and convicted for insider trading. We could talk about the case, but she went to jail. People said, Martha Stewart is finished. Look at Martha Stewart today.
She's back.
Right? And that's about life. That's about life. It's about staying in there and not giving up under any and all circumstances.
You gave a human example from your own life of something you did. The New York Post did an article about your critical, and there was a cartoon, the SS Mooch. And here's the captain, and it's going down.
Brutal.
And instead of being, I'm sure it impacted you, we're human beings, but you did something with it. And you talk about it in the book. Share a little bit, because I think that's important.
Well, I mean, so that was after the White House. I made a very large investment in cryptocurrencies. It did not go well. I had teamed up with Sam Bankman-Fried, who unfortunately is serving time in jail now for fraud. I mean, it's a sad, sordid story there. And so my Bitcoin investments, which peaked at 69,000 in November of 2021, were down at 17,000 by February of 2023. And so the New York Post wrote a financial obituary of me. They had me in the SS Mooch, which was a rinky-dink rowboat, and I was going down. Of course, I looked like Tyrion Lannister. I was just with the big head. I mean, it was an unmitigated disaster. And I took the picture, and I enlarged it, and I put it up in my office, and then I made T-shirts. And then the wise guys in my office, they made like a bobblehead of me sinking in the Bitcoin boat. But I said to my guys, I said, we're either going out of business, these guys are right, we're going out of business, or they called the bottom. Only time will tell whether they're right or if we're right. And so far it's going well, but who the hell knows? We never know.
Yeah, but what impressed me is that, you know, you didn't run away from it, you didn't hide the copies from people in your office, you put it up there. And that shows strength. That's part of the resilience that you are. That is who you are as a person.
Well, yes, it shows that you got to go into things. You got to go into your weaknesses. You know, Eminem, and you remember the movie 8 Mile?
Sure.
And the rap off?
Sure.
Okay, you get up there, they're going to rap each other off, and they're supposed to deride and supposed to, you know, blast each other. Well, he started out with everything that was wrong with himself. And he told the whole song to music of how terrible he was. And then he handed the microphone to his opponent, and he froze the guy. You know, sometimes they'll say, you know, someone will say, you know, make fun of my height. I say, hey, all right, well, look, you know, I'm standing. I know you guys asked me to stand, but I am standing. But I said, but by the way, at my height, at this altitude, there's way more oxygen. You tall people with much thinner air up there.
Right.
And the last time I checked, you know, I can see the glass from this angle, and the glass always looks full. I'm too short to see the glass anything other than half full. My point is, you got to own who you are, and you have to be bashful or ashamed of anything about who you are and what you represent.
How does being of Italian heritage impact you, fuel you?
Well, I think it's a big help. You know, I mean, you know, your mother loved you.
Sure, of course.
I know she loved you. I could just tell
She's
by
Sicilian.
I could tell by your personality.
Yeah.
I could tell by the way you move your head. I could tell by the way you laugh. Your mother loved you. And so when your mother loves you, you're more confident and you're more secure. And so, yeah, no, my grandmother and my mother raised me and they love me. But they also told me to be a good boy, though. They told me you got to be nice to other people. You can't think too full of yourself. You know what I mean?
That's interesting. In my family, my dad's Palestinian. He was immigrant, and he would say, work really hard, and you'll get things. My mom would say, no, you have to go after what you want and go take it. No one's going to say, hey, you're a nice boy, here's what you want. So I'm an amalgam of that. I work really hard and I go after what I want.
I
you
love
can't
it.
be one or the other, it's in my view.
So can I tell a quick story?
Of course.
This is
real
what Salon's
lesson, about.
Real lesson for young people. Okay, so I was so insecure when I left Goldman Sachs. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to join the Harvard Club. Why am I going to join the Harvard? Because I went to Harvard.
Right, Harvard Law.
This way, when I take Dean to the club,
which has not
I don't
happened
have
yet.
to say
Just
that I
wanna
went to
point that out,
Harvard.
right.
Look at the insecurity. I'm just so insecure, okay? And I'm negotiating with people and talking. I'm trying to bring them into my new business. And there's a bus guy, he's like a late 30s guy. He's busting the table. I'm always nice to him, tip him, blah. About a year into me taking people to the Harvard Club, the bus guy, he looks over at me, he says, Mr. Anthony, I said, yeah, you're in money management? I said, yes. He said, well, he explained a personal injury situation that happened to his family. He says, I just got a check for $35 million. I don't know what to do with it.
Wow.
Don't know what to do with it. Could you manage the money for me? This is 20 years ago, by the way.
Right.
This is 35 million. It's probably like 100 million today.
Sure.
And I looked at him and I said, well, why me? He said, oh, you're nice to me. So the point is, be nice to the people. Okay, come on, it's good karma, and you don't know where things are. Now, I wasn't equipped to manage that money, so I gave it to a friend. Mm-hmm. I checked in, they're doing great. That money's up to over $100 million today. And but the point is, all of the negotiations, all the prospecting, the guy that was waiting the table had the most money in the room.
That's kind of remarkable. It's also interesting you mentioned about your mother. My mom loved me. You hope your mother loves you. You talked about in your book that you took the job in the White House, even though your wife's like, don't do this, but to make your mother proud. That's what you wrote.
Yeah, to make my mother
after
proud.
After all the success you've had in your life, why did it still matter?
It fit all the boxes. I would grow up in this blue-collar neighborhood. My parents never went to college. I went to Tufts and Harvard. I built 2 successful businesses on Wall Street. I'm now going to go work for the American president. But the American president is goo-goots. Okay, so if you watch The Sopranos, it means that he was off his rocker.
Right.
My wife hates Trump almost as much as Melania hates him. I mean, that's like my standard of hatred with Trump. Right. I mean, she really can't stand the guy. And she told me don't do it. And we almost got divorced over the whole thing. It was like an unmitigated disaster for me. But I wanted the job because my ego and my pride were speaking to me, Dean. I wanted the job to fit my self-narrative. Mm-hmm. It was a little bit show-offy, okay? It doesn't reflect well on me, but I write honestly about it in the book because if one person can open this book and read the book and say, wait a minute, let me take my pride and ego out of my decision-making, you're always going to make better decisions when you take your pride and ego out of your decision-making. And every time I put my pride and my ego into my decision-making, I've had my comeuppance. Investing, career decisions.
Yeah, and you even give the story in the book about Goldman Sachs, where you made the investment in. There was a medication that was going to cure sepsis. And you put all your money in there. And so, I've read the book. I know.
I'm a genius. I'm 27 years old.
Right.
I have no biotechnology experience, no medical degree. I don't understand organic chemistry, but I'm now a genius on sepsis drugs, which sepsis today, that was 1991. We're now in 2024. We have not figured out sepsis. We can't figure it out. But this drug was going to cure sepsis, and of course, I was the genius on it. And then the worst thing that can happen to you when you think you're a genius, you make money on the investment. So I tripled up on the investment, and this is a totally true story. I ended up with a negative equity in my account. I was down $50,000 because these options blew up on me. I didn't have enough money to cover the options. I said, I'm losing my job. My boss, who's 86 today, God love him, okay? I went to go see him. He said, what did you do? I explained the whole story to him. He said, you're out 50 grand. I said, I'm out 50 grand. I said, you're just gonna have to fire me. I said, I'll figure out a way to pay it off. He says, no, I'm gonna pay it for you. He said, but we're gonna dock your pay and we're gonna take it from your bonus at the end of the year. But hopefully this is a big lesson to you that you don't know what you're doing and don't pretend that you know you're doing something that you don't know. And I write about it in the book. I think it's important for people to know, be cautious.
And also be honest and own your mistakes, right? which is what
have to own your mistakes.
The opposite of Donald
Can't
Trump,
get better.
who you worked with. How did you meet Donald Trump?
The first time I met Donald Trump was actually at a Robin Hood charity, and I was in awe of the guy. I had read or you have to remember, I'm not even an Attleboro guy, right? You're from New Jersey, right? So Trump's chip on his shoulder, he's from Queens, right? The action was in Manhattan. His father didn't want to be in Manhattan. He was a cautious guy, so Trump was going to show everybody he was moving to Manhattan. I'm not even an outer borough guy. I lived out on Long Island, right? But when I got the copy of The Art of the Deal, I was 24 years old. I said, oh, this guy's a genius. I went to Trump Tower. I said, okay, this guy's the man. And then they put him on TV. And I ran into him, I guess it was the early 2000s at the Robin Hood Foundation dinner. Mm-hmm. I happened to be working with CNBC at the time. He was working at NBC. And then we started socializing. We went to a couple of Yankee games together. We did some charity work together. And then where I really got to know him and Michael Cohen was on the Mitt Romney campaign. People forget this, but Donald Trump endorsed Mitt Romney in 2012, and we did 2 fundraisers in his triplex apartment at Trump Tower. And I liked Trump. I got along with him.
Sure.
He was a bit of a character, but he was a New Yorker. And I figured, all right, this is fine. I can get along with the guy, but I was not supporting him for president. In 2016, I was with Scott Walker, and then I was with Jeb Bush. Trump called me when I was with Jeb Bush. He said, that guy has low energy. I said, he doesn't have low energy. You're being ridiculous, okay? And he said, well, look, he's going to come out of the race. When he comes out of the race, I want you to come work for me. Okay, and I write about this in the book. So now the guy winning the presidential nomination of Republicans, I'm going to go work for him. Jeb told me not to go work for him. And Jeb disavowed the pledge. I don't know if you remember this, but in 2016, if you were a Republican running for president, you took a pledge that you would support any of the other Republicans. This was designed for when Trump left the race, that he didn't break up the party and create a third party. But he won. And by the way, Trump signed that pledge, but Jeb disavowed the pledge. And I said, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm a loyal Republican. I'm going to go work for Trump. And that was fine because everybody on that campaign thought Trump was going to lose, including Donald Trump. But he won. And then that's when the ego came in, and that's when the decision-making started to get really bad.
So you mentioned Michael Cohen. You're friends with Michael Cohen. And he obviously had a turn in his life. He was so close. He was a pit bull. He said he would take a bullet for Donald Trump. He just literally testified against Donald Trump. And what do you think of we don't get to watch the testimony, obviously. I wish it was on television. What do you think of what Michael Cohen did, that the testimony he delivered, and if Donald Trump is convicted based on that testimony, how do you think Michael's going to respond?
Well, he'll probably feel vindicated, but because I've read both of Michael's books. But here's what I would say is that loyalty, this is for young listeners, okay? Loyalty is not unconditional. Love is unconditional. Your mother loves you unconditionally, Dean. You can make a mistake. Your mother's going to love you no matter what.
A lot of mistakes, yeah.
You should do your best you can to love your spouse unconditionally. Sure. Of course, you love your children unconditionally. But loyalty is not unconditional. Loyalty is symmetrical. There has to be some level of symmetry to loyalty. If I'm loyal to you, you got to be loyal to me. I can't be asymmetrically loyal because then you look like a turd. So don't be asymmetrically loyal to anybody. And Michael's mistake is that Trump is congenitally asymmetrically loyal to people because he's such a narcissist that he treats everybody like an object in his field of vision. So if it's working for him at the moment, he's transactional, charming, and polite. If it's not working for him, you remember that scene in The Sopranos where they ran the guy over at the service station and then they backed up over his head and smashed it like a cantaloupe?
Yep.
That's Donald Trump. He's going to hit you with the bus. He doesn't care. And so what was surprising about Michael, and he does write about this, Michael thought that he was in the inner sanctum with Trump and that he was never going to get hit with the bus. But Trump hit him with the bus. And once Trump hit him with the bus, I think it shocked Michael. And so Michael wanted retribution. And so that's where we are right now. And so Trump has made a lot of mistakes, going to cost him the election, because he's alienated people that were natural allies of his. The vice president that was on the ticket with him, that was the acting vice president, has not endorsed Donald Trump. He said he would never endorse him. He's got 40 guys at work. Forget about me. I'm talking about 40 guys that were in the cabinet, cabinet secretaries, sub-cabinet secretaries, generals. Under no circumstances would they endorse Donald. They saw up close and personal the insanity of him, the criminality of him. They said, look, I'm never going to endorse the guy. Forget it. I tell people, listen, if we all work for a pharmaceutical company, we told you the drug was going to kill you, You're going to take the drug. We told you that the plane was going to drop out of the sky. You're going to board the plane. Why is it in politics when you got the smartest people, the most patriotic people that served the country, took the guff for serving the country, are telling the truth about somebody who's still voting for him?
There are people, that's a question to millions of people. Why they support Trump?
It's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing.
For some people.
There's a segmentation thing. You're a Republican. There's a grievance.
Yeah.
Trump represents your grievance. I get it. There's not stupid people that are supporting Trump. It's just if they got inside the inner sanctum and they saw what I saw, they would under no circumstances support him.
So you mentioned the Michael Cohen getting hit by the bus moment. What was that for you?
Well, for me, I tried to stay loyal to him. So he fired me after 11 days. I famously got fired for what I said about Steve Bannon, but that was the top story. The real story was I was fighting with Donald Trump in the White House, and he had enough of me. He said to me on the Saturday before I got fired, okay, I was only there for 11 days, and it was the Saturday before I got fired. I was there for 2 Saturdays and 2 Mondays, only 1 Wednesday, Dean, so if you're keeping score at home. And he fired me, and I knew I was getting fired because on the Saturday he said, you know, I thought you were working for me. I thought you were a MAGA guy. You're a deep stater.
He said that to you?
Yeah, I said, Mr. President, I'm not a deep stater. I'm from Port Washington, Long Island. I've never even worked in Washington. It's the first time I've ever been to Washington. I'm not a deep stater, but I love my country. And when you swore me in, I took a vow to the Constitution and to the institutions of the United States and to our democracy. Monday morning, I got fired. And that's it, and it's fine. But I was fine with that. He's the President of the United States. When I got fired, and I write about it in this book, it was my fault. And I served at the discretion of the President of the United States, and if he wanted to hire me on a Friday and fire me the following Monday or 11 days after he hired me, no problem. I'm a big boy. I'm going to stay loyal to him. And I did for 2017, for 2018. Halfway through 2019, I'm on the Bill Maher show. It's August of 2019, and I am defending the President of the United States. I'm a lifelong Republican. I'm defending him. One of the women on the show, she turns to me, she says, well, what about the squad? These are the 4 congresswomen that they're hard left-leaning. One of them's AOC. There are 4 of them. 3 of them were born here in the United States. 1 was naturalized. And Donald Trump was tweeting at that time that these 4 women of the squad should go back to the countries that they originally came from. So she leans into me and said, what about the tweet that these congresswomen should go back to their countries? I said, well, first of all, you and I both know the country they originally came from, for 3 of them, is the United States. Number 1. Number 2, that's classic American nativism. Okay, that is racism. And they did that to my Italian-American grandmother. Maybe they did that to your Sicilian grandmother. But they told these people in the 1920s, Nina, no Italians need to apply. Go back to the country that you came from. It was very hurtful and it upset my grandmother. I would like the President of the United States not to talk like that. Well, in the after party, Bill Maher came over to me and he said, hey, he's going to light you up on Twitter tomorrow. And I was like, there's no way he's going to light me up on Twitter. I'm supporting him.
Right.
No. You were 7 for 8 for Donald Trump tonight. You got to go 13 for 10 for Donald Trump. And since that's mathematically impossible, tomorrow he watches my show. He's going to light you up on Twitter. I bet Bill Maher dinner. I lost the bet. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon the next day, I'm getting lit up on Twitter. And I'm going to tell you something. You see this beautiful Salon mug? That was my face. I was as white as this mug. He's the President of the United States. He's lighting me up on Twitter. I was at the Beverly Hills Hotel on one of the beach, like one of the pool cabanas. I got up from the cabana. I went to the bathroom. I was unnerved. I splashed water on my face. And then my New Yorker-ness came back to me. I said, wait a minute, this guy's taking a shot at me on Twitter after everything I did for him? I said, let me light him up. I think I tweeted back to him, so says the fattest president since William Howard Taft. Because I know he hates being so fat, right?
Right.
So I hit him, okay? And then he hit me back. And then I said, wow, you're not really trolling properly anymore. You must be getting old, because I know he hates that, right? Then he hit me again. And then I hit him. Then it was getting fun. And then every time I hit him, I got like an extra 50,000 Twitter followers, right? And then he does what he does. He starts attacking my wife. And once he did that, I said, okay, that's it. And I went hard. Okay, because there's something wrong. You're nuts. You can't handle yourself like that in the American presidency. I know the game has changed. I know it's a rougher game. It's an uglier game. I know that it's different from the 1960s, 70s when Reagan ran. I get all that. The formality's gone. We're in a street fight. We're going to play in the gutter. I get all that. But I don't like you going after my wife.
Of course not.
Okay, I don't like you attacking a civilian who never said a bad thing about you. He knew my wife and I were having problems in our marriage as a result of me going to work for him. And it was just like a bro code breakage. And I said, that's it. I'm done with the guy.
So if he gets back in, are you concerned that he would come after you?
He probably would come after me, but no, I'm not concerned. I'm an American. I got raised like you did to have no fear. Okay, I got raised that this is America. These people work for us. We don't work for them. If he's coming after me, then we're in a very changed America. We're in an autocratic America.
Right.
We're in an America that our ancestors didn't come to, right? Our ancestors were fleeing autocracies and aristocracies, and they were fleeing the unpredictability of the law that comes from an aristocracy or a dictatorship.
Sure.
And they were coming to America because what did Cicero say about a republic? We are slaves to the law in order to be free. And the Founding Fathers understood that they had to create separation of powers in order to prevent autocracy. And that led to the success of your family and my family because we could live in a primarily merit-based society as opposed to a class system and the sclerosis that you see in Europe. And so if Mr. Trump is going to change that, that represents a danger and a systemic change to our society. So I think it's important for people like me who understand freedom, love the country, to speak out against it. And I will. And if I get retribution as a result of that, then I know the society's changed and we got to speak out even harder. We have to advocate even more. But I live my life with no fear. And that's another big lesson in this book. Mel Brooks had the best line ever. You know what he said? Relax, Dean. None of us are getting out of here alive.
That's very funny.
Relax.
So
we're going to go anyway. I want to go on the right side of the angels. I don't want to go as a morally equivocating, like these jokers down at the court. They're all wearing the same Trump outfit. They're in 100% poly, though. You could tell this stuff was like from Marshalls. Right? They all look fully flammable with the extra long ties, and they're all auditioning to be the vice president. And some of them are wearing beards. I would just recommend those. You got to shave your beards because Trump hates beards. He's like the George Steinbrenner of politics, So I'm just trying to give these guys some fashion tips, if they want to be the VP.
We're going to send it to them. I think it's really interesting, too, though, you invoke your family, because I often think about my father came here as an immigrant for what America represented, and my grandparents from Sicily came here for what America represented. And what Trump is an insult to what this nation's supposed to be about, and why they came here for a dream of a nation where you're not going to be discriminated against based on your religion, your race, or your ethnicity. And this is a guy who's just trafficked in the worst stuff.
Trump is as if Huey Long, married Charles Lindbergh. They were the two fathers of the America First movement, right? So Huey Long married Charles Lindbergh, and they had a baby. They named him Donald Trump, and they let Roy Cohn raise the guy. Okay, that's the guy. Okay, and that's what he represents. And by the way, I know that, Mike Pence knows that, Jim Mattis knows that, General Kelly knows that. We have 40 plus people that are trying to express to you what he's like and the threat he is to the institutions of democracy. And I'll quote Mark Esper for a moment, former defense secretary. I'm a Republican. I will tolerate policy decisions from the Biden administration that I disagree with, in order to make sure that we don't have a systemic threat to the institutions of our democracy and a systemic threat to our Constitution. It's that simple. Patriot first, partisan second.
And that's vitally important with the stakes going to 2024. Last thing, you mentioned recently that Donald Trump is an existential threat to democracy. As someone who knows him, what is he capable of?
Well, he's got a very smart group of people that are running his campaign. A lot of these Heritage Foundation people believe in something called unitary executive power. So just inviting people back to their 8th grade social studies, we have 3 branches of government in the country. The Constitution says that they're separate but equal. One of the more fun, enjoyable moments for me in the White House, and this did happen on a Wednesday, Dean, I know because I was only there for one Wednesday, It was Trump and Paul Ryan fighting, and they're tall guys. I'm not tall. And Trump was going like this to Paul Ryan. He said, "You work for me, blankety blank, blankety blank." And Paul was like, "I don't work for you. I'm in a totally separate branch of totally separate article of the Constitution. It's a branch of government." I said, "By the way, we all work for the American people." And Trump doesn't like that. And Trump and his minions, they believe in something called unitary executive power, which is to expand the executive branch and empower the executive branch and weaken the other two branches. Okay, he's also said publicly he's going to take the FCC licenses away from people that he disagrees with or disagree with him. He has said publicly that he's going to use the Department of Justice to persecute his enemies. He said privately to one of his defense attorneys, who immediately dropped him, that he wants to use the FBI as the Gestapo. Now, the good thing about that is that he has no historical understanding of our civilizations. He doesn't even know what the word Gestapo really means in the context of the inhumane things that the Gestapo did in Nazi Germany. But to say it, and then to have willing participants, these willing accomplices, it represents an existential danger to the country. So we have to talk out about it, we have to speak out about it, but that's the threat.
Well, my friend Anthony, congratulations on the book, From the Wall Street to the White House and Back. It's a great read. It's got stuff about being in the White House, about politics, but about life and things that are really helpful for people. I found it really interesting, and it made me think about certain things. So, my friend, nice to see you. Congratulations.
It's a real pleasure to be here. Thank
you for tuning in to Salon Talks. I'm Dean Obeidallah.
Thank you for watching Salon Talks. Be sure to subscribe as we feature some of your favorite artists, authors, and more. And while you're here, you might as well watch another video by clicking right here.